A lot of the time when I engage in conversation and tell other people I'm a med student, their first reaction is always like, wow, you must be so smart. But in fact, my natural intelligence didn't get me very far in med school, and I almost failed my assignments at the beginning of the year. Hey guys, I'm Tony Tian, and if you're new to this channel, I'm a third year medical student here at University of Otago in New Zealand. So recently we just finished our final exams for our third year, and I'm officially done for the third year of medicine, going to my fourth year, which is the clinical placement next year. So today I want to talk about what I learned in 3 years of being in med school. So first, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, that natural intelligence doesn't really get you very far in med school. And in fact, people doing medicine aren't necessarily the smartest person in the entire world. Well, I know this might offend some people because some people in med are indeed really smart, but from a personal point of view, I know my intelligence is definitely not up there. To even get into med school or to succeed in med school, it's really about how consistent you are rather than how smart you are. So if you want to get into med school or even cruise through it after you get into it, something that's really important is your study consistency and your habit formation. So habits is the most important construct of a person. Your habits literally define who you are. So give you an example, even if people don't see you as a smart academic person, your habit of going to the library every single day and study for 8 hours is gonna get you there one day, maybe in 2 years, maybe in 3 years. But because you have that habit, even your ability is not quite there yet, your habits have already defined who you're going to be in the future. So one thing that's really important in forming habits is to combine what is interesting with what's boring. When the task seems to be a little bit more tedious than your average daily task, so your brain kind of establish this association between certain reward and certain things you're doing. So for instance, maybe every single time when you finish a 45 minutes of study session, you can reward yourself with your favorite food. This is an idea taken from the book Atomic Habits. If you haven't read it, you can give it a go. I personally find it really helpful and gave me a lot of tips on forming some of the study habits that I have right now. Something I also do personally is I allow my interest to take part in my study. So basically, when I'm studying, instead of just focusing on one topic, I would deviate off to whatever my interest takes me. So for instance, if I'm studying atherosclerosis and I'm really interested in how the LDL penetrates the vascular wall, and I'll start researching that, maybe I'll deviate to something that's completely unrelated to this year of learning, but I still end up learning something, and allowing my interest to take part in this process allow me to be in this concentrated status. It is sort of the same idea why when you're gaming we can go for hours without getting tired or getting bored. And one thing that's really good about medicine is you can never learn too much. Everything kind of just loops back around and connects to each other. So what I often find is when I allow my interest to just deviate off to wherever it wants, it always takes me back to some other topic that I need to learn for that year. So it ends up being really productive while having lots of fun. It might not be as efficient as a topic-focused or a content-focused method of study, but it is very effective in a way that it maintains your momentum during the semester while you're not being pressured for exams or anything. Another thing about study that I learned throughout the years is that you should try to avoid perfection. I'm always a little bit concerned about what I forget this detail, what I forget that detail, and all these details kind of drive me crazy, especially when it's a topic that you're not interested in. So it is okay to have a preference in the things you learn, that you don't have to be perfect in every single topic. That's why in medicine we have specialties, that different people specialize in different area, because we can't really learn all the details of all the domain by ourselves alone. So for instance, some of my friends, they're better in anatomy, and the other ones, they might be better in pharmacology. And when we're doing a group study session, it just all comes together, so you don't have to stress about knowing every single detail. And also the medicine kind of examines you on all the aspect of managing a patient. So if you can be excellent in one aspect and maybe just average in another aspect, you'll still end up getting a really good mark. The second thing I want to talk about is taking notes. I had tons of struggle on deciding whether if I should use handwriting notes, whether I should use digital notes, well, should I take it on my iPad, type it out on my laptop, use Notion, use Notability, use OneNote, or whatever apps that's out there. So in short, here's the pros and cons. The handwriting notes, it's slow, but it's better for knowledge retention, but it is harder to access just because you can't really search through through the papers like you do with a typed document. And even if you're using an iPad, you're using apps like Notability where it supports handwriting search, it is not always accurate, and it's definitely lacking functionality like Notion where you can organize your knowledge really well. And digital notes is much easier to review, and it's much easier for you to copy and paste from one place to another. But also when you're just typing it, your brain kind of just goes blank, so you need to go through it over and over again for more times than your handwriting notes. So after all these years of experimenting, sort of tossing in between apps and apps, switching from typing on my laptops to writing on my iPad again and again, at the end of the day what I realized is that it really doesn't matter. If you're using digital notes, a lot of people who are using digital notes that I knew of sort of have this idea that if I create a perfect digital note, I can sort of use it as my own database and it's more easily accessible in the future when I'm trying to access it. So for instance, if I have like a management plan for all the diabetes and have all the pathology on it, it becomes so much easier for me when I become an actual doctor and I can just go back to it and search for it. But the thing is, anything you have in these digital notes can be easily found using Google, and it might just take you 5 seconds more to find it in a handwriting note that is on your iPad. So I don't see it being very meaningful to have a everything covered digital notes that is super organized, because you can just Google. And once you become a doctor, there's probably a lot of reference guide that you can go to, and you probably don't have much time to access your notes from Notion. Because at the end of the day, our role as a doctor is to know knowledge and to use it immediately and effectively. And the last thing I want to mention is navigate your free time effectively, because in your life, you are so much more than just being a doctor. You might identify as a runner, as a basketball player, as a swimmer, as a YouTuber, content creator. So it is important to get skills and getting prepared for these alternative roles that is in your life other than being a doctor. And also, one of the main purposes of having a free time is that we can have enjoyment. There's this constant idea that short-term enjoyment is always conflicted with long-term gratification, but if you combine your task in an effective and intelligent way, you can easily solve that problem. Instead of playing a game like NBA 2K, you can go play basketball on an actual basketball court, which gives you the thrill and satisfaction of playing the game, but at the same time you're also exercising, making your body slightly better every single time you go. Instead of watching Netflix and getting thrill from these fictional things, you can go to a social event, you can engage in a relationship, and get an enjoyment of the thrill, the intimacy that is in the movie in real life. And at the same time, upskill your social skills. So these are the 3 things that came to the top of my mind when it comes to what I wish I knew before I started med school, and hopefully it's helpful for you guys, but it is at the end of the day just my personal view. So if you find some of these things a little bit controversial, feel free to leave it in a comment, send me a DM, and I'm happy to discuss about it. But other than that, good luck for where you're at in your life, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. And I'll see you next time. Peace.